Welcome, everyone, to West Michigan Pastors. This is a virtual kind of Bible study with a variety of pastors throughout the West Michigan area, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the show today. We do want to let you know that you can participate, so comment on the video feed, and we will address your questions, comments, concerns, or points of views if we feel they're appropriate. Try to keep them appropriate. Shouldn't have too much of a problem with that, I hope. So anyways, on today's show, I want to welcome Pastor Greg from New Community Church of Newaygo, Pastor Dave from the Foundation Church in Holland, and Pastor Eric from Newaygo United Methodist Church. So welcome everybody to the show today.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Today, our topic that we're going to be talking about is crisis-related dreams and how they're increasing during the pandemic. So our topics come from what is called the Wired Word. So it's a Bible study topics that come out each week. And so we use that information and stuff to kind of develop our talking points and some big questions. So I'm going to start off with talking about or reading through the information and stuff that is the basis of our topic today. So in the news, before I start and whatnot, we do have one additional person that just joined us, Pastor Jamie Evans. Welcome, Jamie. Glad you could get with us today.
There he is.
Yeah.
So Jamie's on board now. All right. So into the topic of discussion, which is the crisis-related dreams with the pandemic. So in the news, we're talking in recent months since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, some people around the world have experienced coronavirus pandemic dreams or quanadreams that are symptoms of increased anxiety, fear, stress, over isolation, job and health concerns, financial losses, and worries over personal safety and that of family and friends. So here are a few examples of some of the content of people's dreams that have been coming in. Dreaming one has the virus or is dying of it. Dreaming of being wrapped up in toilet paper as a status symbol to go to a fancy dress event. Dreaming that people are not staying the required 6 feet away. Dreaming of being choked to death by a giant black snake. Dreaming about being separated from friends or family. Dreaming about being short of breath or having a high fever. Dreaming about being locked up in prison or being coughed on or coughing on others. Dreaming of forgetting one's face mask or about being surrounded by people who aren't wearing any masks. Dreaming about going bankrupt. Dreaming about losing a job, not being able to find work. Dreaming about being chased, attacked, or killed by something dangerous that represents the virus, such as flying insects, monsters, mass shooters, zombies, tigers and lions, tsunamis, wildfires, earthquakes, hurricanes, or shadowy figures, or things like that. One woman using the hashtag CoronaDreams tweeted that she dreamt about trying to navigate a maze to get from point A to point B, while trying to avoid all the unmasked people in her path. A lot of people are also having dreams about hands, said dream analyst Lori Lowenberg. They fall off, skin comes off them, and they don't work. Such dreams reflects a growing fear of touching anything or anyone because the virus is so contagious. You could easily catch it or transmit it, and you could kill someone, Lowenberg said. Dr. Deirdre Barrett, assistant professor of psychology at Harvard Medical School, has seen an uptick of more than 6,000 vivid, often bizarre pandemic dreams among more than 2,500 study participants since March of 2020. She herself dreamt that she was trying to put a hood over her cat's head to protect it from something toxic in the air. The metaphor of insects such as armies of cockroaches or masses of wiggling worms or grasshoppers with vampire fangs, bed bugs, stink bugs, or things like that are very common, Barrett reported. When we say I've got a bug, that means I'm sick, and often I've got a virus. So I think it's partially that association, she explained. But then a little bit deeper than just the word, I think it's the idea of lots of little things that cumulatively can hurt or kill you is really a very good metaphor for virus particles. Barrett's survey results show that people closer to the pandemic threat, such as healthcare workers, those living in epicenters, and those with affected loved ones, tend to have more pandemic dreams, and they tend to be more severe and literal in nature. Frontline workers may dream about overloaded wards and equipment shortages or failures, about getting sick or being unable to save COVID-19 patients who are dying. They feel like it's their responsibility to save this person's life, and yet they don't actually have much control over it. And the person is dying anyway, Barrett remarked. That's their nightmare. It's the worst moment from their daytime experiences. Many researchers suspect that dreams allow us to simulate stressful real-life situations to help us work through our fears and prepare to handle similar challenges in our waking hours. Barrett said that occasionally someone has a happy dream in which they go and find an elixir in their medicine cabinet that cures it, or they find a doctor who has a shot that will cure it. According to Dr. Kelly Bullarkey, a dream researcher and psychologist of religion, many dreams born of the COVID-19 pandemic have been unrelated nightmarish, especially for those with little experience with crisis-related dreaming. But some people who learn to adapt and solve problems are open to options and change the trajectory and outcome of their dreams. Buckley suggests that people who are less attached to the status quo and more comfortable amid uncertainties of radical change tend to carry out those strengths into their dream world, which makes them more successful in resolving problems in that context. Barrett and other dream researchers caution that images in dreams may or may not symbolize something literal, such as flying insects representing the coronavirus. Instead, some images may represent an abstract concept, as when dreaming of a car crash may suggest that the dreamer feels that life is spinning out of control. Not that the dreamer necessarily fears having an actual car crash. Buckley adds that dreamers who can anticipate potential disruptions in their lives and who can envision possible responses to a collective crisis may avoid overwhelming feelings of terror, helplessness, or vulnerability. In their dreams, they maintain emotional equilibrium for the most part. As they observe what is happening objectively, take proactive steps to respond appropriately to the crisis assist of other people in need and plan for the future. These dreamers view the crisis as a challenge that's within their powers to manage and solve. So with that in context, the big questions we have for today, the first one for you guys to discuss and talk about and share your thoughts and understanding. Question number one, have you noticed any difference in your dreams since the coronavirus outbreak? What, if anything, do your dreams express in the midst of the pandemic? And what are your emotions when you wake up?
I can say that I have.
Well, if I ever wake up,
Are we all talking at once?
go ahead, Dave.
I want to hear what happens if he ever wakes up.
I didn't raise my hand. I'm sorry. Dave, go.
Yeah, what happens if are you in a dream right now, Greg?
I might be. I don't know. My neighbors are out there moving dirt. I don't think I'm in a dream. I don't know. Dave, go ahead. You go first.
Oh well, I was just gonna say that for me, I'm built to be an extrovert, and so I get energy from people, and this isolation, I believe, has hurt me subconsciously as well. And I think that sometimes I do have little longer dreams. I think they're a little more vivid. I think my mind is trying to search for something in the subconscious that has been important to me in the past, or something that needs to be brought to the surface now. And I think it probably copes with a little bit of my anxiety and depression by, because the mind is amazing. The mind will cope and teach you what's healthy, whether you think you know it's healthy or not, right? So the mind knows that we should bring these things to the surface and talk about them or see them or whatever. And I think that, yes, I have had some pretty vivid dreams since this isolation, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not. I don't know. I've had a lot of dreams in the past where I've woke up in the middle of them and just maybe said some weird things. My wife has told me a couple of things that I've said, and then it's been kind of weird because usually the next day something happens that basically went along with what my dream said or what my dream did. But lately, I don't know if I've been dreaming, but I know I've woke up in the middle of the night with anxiety of like, did I pay my bills? Did I do this? Did I do that? And so, I mean, I know I've done this, especially like my car payment. The place that I usually called to make my car payment each month, I tried calling them and I never talked to a human being. I always got an automated voice that I just made my payment to. Well, when I called, it said, due to the coronavirus, we've cut back on our personnel and we can't take your payment over phone. I'm like, I've never talked to a person. Why can't I pay? Well, that went for like 2 months. And finally, one of them called me. But I was waking up in the middle of the night with anxiety. Like, I'm missing something. I haven't paid my payments. They're going to come take my car away. Those kind of things. But I don't know if it was a dream that triggered it or what. But I haven't really noticed any dreaming going on for me.
Well, for me, I mean, when you talk about this, the article talks about people like the bugs and people worried about the coronavirus. I don't worry about that. So that's not what I dream about. I dream more about probably how church is going to look when it reopens. And, I'm late. I had a dream last week that was really intense, and I just couldn't get to the pulpit. One thing after another, I just couldn't get up there. It's like halfway through the service and I'm not even ready to go. And, those kind of dreams, and I'm just not prepared. And, I don't know what that's all about, but that's a recurring dream that I have. So I think we have dreams based on what we're concerned with or anxious about. I'm not anxious about getting the coronavirus, so I've never really had a dream about that. But pertaining to church and how that's going to look and when we open up, I think I'm a little more anxious about that. So that's what my dreams look like.
Yeah.
This is the quietest I've ever had Greg on the show, because I believe he's having some technical difficulties and he did freeze up. So
I did. I'm back on now.
He's like in a perfect pose right now. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Coming back to life now.
It's kind of nice.
You back with us, Greg?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know what happened there, but I think I'm back.
I always sleep with my mouth open. At least your mouth was closed.
Yeah, usually you see.
Dreams are weird. I think I'm boring. I don't have any dreams. I mean, if I do, it's like rehashing what my day's been like, or what I experienced in my day, or something like that. But the biblical response to dreams has always been something pretty big. I mean, dreams and visions are important. And I think what a lot of these, reading this article, I didn't go with the surprise, Eric. Sorry, I had to read the article ahead of time. And, being wrapped up in toilet paper as a status symbol or that's kind of like the funniest one. Everything else is pretty serious though. But, I think it's what's on everybody's mind. And I think as a pastor, if somebody comes up to me and dreams that they were stuck in a rat maze looking for toilet paper, maybe we should have a talk or something, because there's some underlying issues there, I guess. But yeah, my dreams are pretty boring.
And I think that shows that you're not really anxious or you're fearful about stuff. You know, you're not like Eric missing that car payment is something that really weighed heavily on his mind. And so it enters his dream world. And, you know, I mean, that happens quite a bit to people, whatever they're anxious about,
Right.
will enter in. So that's not such a bad thing, not having dreams.
No, I agree. I did catch that, Jamie, what you were saying too about not being fearful of catching coronavirus. I mean, I think that's what you were getting at. And I don't think I am either. I certainly have not been one to follow suit with having a mask, and you know, I social distance. I'm a terrible social distancer. You know, I mean, and it's like, that's not one thing that worries me for some reason. And I think I've come across a lot of people that are like, what do you mean you're not worried about this? If you're not worried about it, then you must be getting other people sick. You know, I mean, it's been that extreme to the end, you know. I mean, it's like, no, I'm just, you know, hey, I like to go to the store and get the stuff and not have to wear a mask. I mean, it's just, we were down in Shipshewana last Saturday and there's a couple of stores that required it and I had a mask on. I was miserable. I couldn't, you know, and I'm like, but I really wanted to go into this store. So I'm like, fine, I'll wear your mask. But, you know, I just couldn't do it. But it's not because I don't like rules. It's just because I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's tough for me as a pastor is that a lot of people now have to interact versus seeing you face to face. They're interacting with their problems over messaging or emailing, and so you can't really look at their face. And I think that lots of times I take those kinds of situations heavy onto me as you can argue a pastor should or shouldn't. And a lot of times I dream about those kinds of things at night. They may even trigger some of the things in my life, you know, and I don't know, understand dreams that well, but I have read an article that these dreams are triggered by PTSD, and they also are causing PTSD in people. You know?
Yeah, that's the other aspect. When you have those dreams, because I've had those anxious, you know, dreams, you wake up and you're like, you know, things are a little more anxious and, you know, where do I go now? And you're kind of concerned about your next steps. And
Right.
You know, it just kind of starts your day off pretty on the wrong foot, so to speak. So.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I'm kind of wondering if they're talking to this professor at Harvard in psychology, who names her cat Morpheus. What is she thinking?
True. Very true.
She's a comic book fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where Morpheus comes from? Is that a comic book thing?
Well,
I think of Morpheus. I think of the Keanu Reeves.
The Matrix.
The Matrix. Yeah.
I think there's a comic book character named Morpheus too. So,
Okay. Well, according to Greek mythology, Morpheus is the god associated with sleeps and dreams. So she's really just into her work.
Oh, there we go. All right. Now that.
there you go.
See,
That
we
makes
learn
more
something
sense.
new every day. I had no idea that was the case. So,
That's why I renamed my dogs Martin and Kelvin. All right. So, you know,
so Greg, my question is then, did you know that or did you look it up because you were
I
curious?
Googled it. I'll be honest with you.
I was going to say, there's no way he knew that off the top of his head. No way.
Right there, Morpheus.
Welcome to the 21st century. We have Google. You have a question?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't have an exhaustive library. I've got Google.
That makes a lot more sense than being a Matrix fan. I'm just saying.
That does make. That's what my first thought's Matrix, but so that makes a lot more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
That shows where all of us, you know, spend our time and stuff, and that's not in a Greek mythology book. It's in a movie theater.
Well, that's why the character's named Morpheus in the Matrix, because it's the dream world. Well, anyway, all right.
Right.
Yeah. No, got you now. Makes sense now.
All right, so here's on to question number 2. Are you having multiple versions of the same dream since the outbreak of the pandemic? Some researchers say that reoccurring dreams can indicate unresolved issues in your life. Can you identify any issues that keep bubbling up in your dreams? If so, how can your faith help you address them? I
like that last question. just because it's who we are. I mean,
Yep.
Yes, I'm having multiple versions of my same boring dreams. So what does that mean for me? Obviously, I'm not sticking to something properly, but when it comes to fear, or what did they call them? Quarantine dreams, there's a fear and a faith issue there, maybe. Not that I'm saying that somebody has poor faith, but there's something there, obviously, to shake up somebody's faith.
Right.
And if we or anybody else are having these dreams that are really shaking our faith or making us wonder, then yeah, we need to address the faith or where that faith comes from, and not so much read too much into dreams, because that there's a bottom line right there.
Yeah.
So Nicole, who's watching us on Facebook, says that she's had less dreams and less anxiety since this.
Yeah, and I can understand that, because if you had anxiety, my son's the same way. He had a ton of anxiety about school, going to school, all the pressures of waking up in the morning, going to school. And since the quarantine, he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He's kind of thriving right now. He's less stressed than he was. So I can understand. I don't know if that's Nicole's situation or not, but just being isolated from people and just being surrounded by family in some cases, I think has been helpful for some people that deal with stress and anxiety in their lives.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Well, and that's I wonder too if it's given people a lot of chance to come back to being more family focused and maybe even more faith focused and whatnot, versus having all of the stressors of being so busy, of work and sports and all this stuff for for the kids, right. And all these, you got to get this and you got to get to that, and how are we going to fit this into the schedule and stuff, and now it's just like there is no schedule.
Right.
So
our busy schedule
how that
gone
can
away.
cause some relief.
I have heard. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
I was say I've had people ask me in the past about ways that God speaks to you, and it kind of goes along with what Jamie said, is the fact that if you're not anxious, you don't have anything going on. Because one of the things that I described is, if you have a crossroads in your life that you're struggling with right now, you don't know, you come to this crossroads and you don't know if you should go right, left, straight, turn around, go back, or just stay where you're at. One of the ways that God does talk to us is through our dreams, and he kind of gives us little hints. And I always ask them, we all know 5 minutes after we wake up from a dream that we start losing the basic concept of that dream. Yep. However, there's usually one little snippet of that dream that just sticks out, because it really didn't go a lot with the rest of the dream, but it just sticks out, and you cannot forget that one little snippet. And then as you sit there and reflect on it and think about it, you realize it's an answer to those frustrations that you've been trying to figure out. It gives you, whether it be God telling us or whether it be internally we're coming out and saying, this is what I think I need to do this. I need to go this way. Mm-hmm. But I look at it as, because I've done that a few times in my past, where I've had a frustration going on in my faith walk, where I've asked God before I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I'm like, I know what I'm doing. And I look at it as God was directing me. He was using that. That was one of the ways he was using to talk to me and to guide me on the path he had chosen for me. So,
right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My wife and I played cards the other night, and I asked her, I said, how's she doing with all this? It's been 10 weeks now. And she said that she's actually doing really well. She would probably identify with Nicole, right? But my wife is one that doesn't mind being a little bit isolated. She doesn't mind being like a homebody. And I don't know if that's the same with Nicole or not, but my wife is more introverted. And so this kind of fits her scheme of, she kind of loves this. And, but on the other hand, as she looks at the world and prays for the world, she does have to realize that, and she said this too, she says, I'm made by God in his image. I'm made to be in contact with people. And so, the first thing that human beings did when they sinned, right, is they isolated. They ran from God, and he went and found them. And I think that God finds us in our anxiety and our depression and our isolation. And I think that you call upon his name and stay close to him in prayer, then he will help us deal with stress and anxiety and come dwell with us, so to speak, right in our own minds and in our hearts.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, just talking about dreams. Since this pandemic started, I would imagine some of the dreams are not helped by the fact that we're probably eating more ice cream than we should. We're probably, our sleep schedules are way off.
Guilty.
We're not in a regular mode here. It's not like real life right now because a lot of people weren't working, and our eating habits are worse, and that affects those things as well. Sometimes, I want to be careful because I know some people that every dream they have is God, and I'm like, no, you shouldn't have eaten pizza at midnight. Not every dream is God either. So there's the other side of the coin of that. I do agree that there's sometimes God speaks to you, but if your lasting impression from most of your dreams is that you're naked, that might not be God. It might just be you just being goofy. So out there too.
Wanting to be free.
They had a news story the other day that liquor sales have gone up 40% in the last 3 weeks.
That'll create some great dreams.
Yeah, if you've got nothing to do but eat tacos and drink Budweiser all day long, you're going to have some pretty good dreams.
Oh, man. If you're drinking Budweiser, that's going to mess with your dreams just in the first place.
Yeah, no doubt.
If you're going to drink something, at least make it something good.
But I agree with Greg, though. The last part of that question is the most important part, right? No matter what. I haven't had multiple dreams during this. I don't have the same recurring dreams. But I can speak to how faith can help address those. And, if people are having dreams and these nightmarish dreams about bugs and about all this stuff, just take it to the Lord in prayer. Trust Him. Philippians 4 says to cast all your anxieties upon Him, and make your requests made known to God. And I think that that's a very important aspect of our faith, is just to kind of take a deep breath, kind of step back from how we're feeling, and use our brains and use what the Word of God says, and to experience God's presence through His Word and through our knowledge of what He has said to us in our lives, that He would never leave us nor forsake us,
right?
That we're not alone, that He doesn't give us anything bigger than what we can handle. Those things sometimes are misquoted and with good intentions, but the fact is that God is in control of what's going on. And I think as far as exhibiting our faith goes, that's an important thing to remember, is that this isn't out of control. God is in control. He knows what's going on. He's, nothing is outside of His foresight. And so that's a very important thing to remember, to exhibit our faith when we're experiencing anxiety like that and having those kinds of dreams.
Right.
And the other one is grateful. I don't know if Nicole's still listening, but that's a huge gift from God to you if you're not anxious and you're not in these dreams. It's
Amen.
Don't look upon other people that are having dreams and all this and say, well, I must be the odd one out. Just thank God that you don't, right?
True.
Yeah.
I think Jamie's comment that he was just making there, I think really is a pretty good lead in to the next question. Question number 3 is, how might God be using your dreams to help you understand experiences in the midst of the pandemic? But the other half of this question that I really like is, what new conversations with God might the content of your dreams suggest you should pursue? So, like, Jamie said, it's not always God talking to you, but maybe your dreams are telling you what you need to have a conversation with God about.
Not drinking Budweiser so much.
Or eating before bed.
There goes our corporate sponsorship.
Michigan Pastor, sponsored by Budweiser. I love it.
The company I work for just did a partnership and huge sponsorship with PBR. And every time they say it, I keep thinking PBR, but it's actually Pro Bull Riders. It's not the PBR beer. But I struggle with that every time we talk about it in a meeting.
Oh my goodness.
And Michelob has less carbs, so I hear.
Right.
So
Back to
Less
the
carbs
question.
mean less dreams. Less carbs mean less dreams. Is that what?
Yeah.
It is?
off of the beer topic and back to the what do your dreams suggest that you should talk to God about?
Man, maybe just why? Why more? I mean, there's something about having faith, but then there's having blind faith, and I think there's something to the effect of saying, all right, why, God? Why? I understand. Maybe you may be talking to me in these dreams. Maybe why? What do I need to ask? It's one of those things. Dreams are so hard to figure out. It's not the word I was looking for, but I mean, look at with Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar. Look how many times he pulled him aside and said, why? I don't get it. Why? And God loves to have those conversations. God loves his people to follow up on things with him with questions about why, seeking his wisdom, asking him for, an explanation. No question's too dumb for God to answer, right? So that would be my thing is if I ever have a really good dream that I don't get, I'm going to go, why? Why did I need to envision this? Why did I need to see this? Just to open up a conversation in general would be good for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring up a good point there. When we, like I said, we keep saying that usually when you're in an anxious state in yourself you're at a crossroads, that's when God usually tends to speak up. I mean, when you're looking at Daniel, most of the time he talked. When Joseph was, worried about what he was going to do with Mary after finding out she was with child, he dreamt the angel come and spoke with him. So, those are times in our anxious times is when God usually comes, speaks to us. But yeah, like you said, not everything that we see. That's why I said most of the time when you wake up from a dream, most of that dream is gone within 5 minutes. You know the basic concept, but you lost all the details already. Right. Except for usually those little snippets, and those little snippets are there for a reason to kind of, and those ones that, like I said, those are the ones that I usually look at as possibly that's where God's stepping into that dream and trying to connect with you.
Right.
All right, question number. We're on question number 4. Do you have a dream that you've never revealed or discussed with anyone? And what prevents you from sharing it?
It ain't gonna be here.
That's
tell us all your secrets. We'll keep a secret, I promise. It'll just stay within this meeting. That's broadcast out live to the entire world.
I gotta say, Nicole is one of the blessed members of my church. I ain't doing it. Right?
We definitely appreciate you chiming in, Nicole. We love the interaction and stuff. That definitely helps out with the discussion too. So,
it's interesting. Every one of these questions, that's the second question is always the key one that we all want to talk about. What would prevent us from sharing a dream? Well,
yeah.
Pick a feeling, and you'll get right on it.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
faith. Pride is a big one. Pride, because you don't want to look stupid. You don't want to look foolish. Even if it's one of these great prophetic dreams that you get, and I'm not going to tell anybody this because nobody's going to believe me anyways. That type of thing it would be, I could see a big thing why people don't want to share their dreams.
Yeah. I'm pretty open, and I'm pretty, I have enough education on the subject of dreams to know that when I have a dream that's pretty messed up, it's messed up for a reason. There's stuff in there that's not good.
Right.
But I can't think of anything that I've never shared with anyone. I mean, usually I tell my wife if I've had some kind of a dream about something in our relationship or something like that. I'm pretty open with all the dreams that I've had. So I don't really not share those with people. I'm pretty open about that. But
I've had, and like you said, pride. Maybe we have a prophetic dream and we're afraid people are going to look at us kind of goofy and funny and call us, a little crazy. So we don't want to really share it. But, I've had that situation a couple of times. There was one time when I had the situation where I had this weird dream where I'm with 20 other people. The only person that I could see outside was almost like we were being judged. And I turned around and my dad was standing there. And then as all of a sudden I felt like somebody whacked me over the back of the head with a hammer. We were looking across the bay and seeing 4 buildings where the lightning bolts were striking these 4 buildings down in this city. And then I felt like I got whacked over the back of the head with a hammer. And then the person standing next to me is, okay, we got to go. Come on. And I'm like, where are we going? They're like, let's just go. So I started walking off with them, and I turned around, looked at my dad still standing there, and I went and waved to him again. And that time he didn't wave back to me. And then as we continued walking further, I turned around, looked, and we were all laying on the ground. So we basically like died. And I'm thinking, and it just so happened the next day I was working with a company. I was just starting at a new company, and I was out working with some of the drivers that went around to all these different companies to do the uniforms and stuff. And one of the stops was at my dad's shop. So I went into that day going, oh my gosh, I'm going to die today. And it's going to be at my dad's shop. And so the whole time I was at that shop, I'm looking all over I was watching over my shoulder, left and right, waiting.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. We went to the next location, and as we're there, what's that?
You said nothing happened. You didn't die? I'm surprised.
I did not die at my dad's shop.
Okay,
well,
good.
But when I got to the next shop, we did our things. Then we went into the office to have them sign the paperwork. And she goes, do you guys hear what just happened? And we're like, no, what? She goes, somebody flew a plane in the World Trade Center. And it was at the exact time that we were at my dad's shop. And then when I started putting it all together, there was about, like I said, there was about 20 of us there. There was about 20 hijackers. There was 4 buildings that were knocked down in my dream. And there was 4 towers that actually fell, not just the World Trade Center. A couple of tall towers next to them fell. There was 4 total. So it was like, oh my gosh. So,
You're
we
saying
had
you're a
like
prophet.
that. No, I'm not saying I'm a prophet. I'm thinking God was because I think God was trying to work with me on some other issues. And I kept asking the question, God, is this you talking to me, or is it just my wishful thinking, or what? And I think God was maybe using that as a way to say, yeah, I'm here.
Right.
Because then again, it happened again when from after that, my wife said I just sat up in the bed and I just sat there and I was talking and she couldn't understand what I was saying. And then she's like, what are you doing? And I just turned around, and apparently what I said to her was, I was just talking to God, and we're going to attack Afghanistan today. And I got up and went to the bathroom and came back to bed. I woke up the next morning. She's like, do you remember what you said to me? And I'm like, no. And then she told me, I was like, really? I remember that dream. I remember the dream I had, but it was like, and then that whole day I'm listening to the radio, driving around, listening to the radio. And it was about 4 that afternoon when it came across that we were dropping bombs in Afghanistan. I was like, oh my gosh. So like I said, I haven't had too many of those, but they've happened on occasion. So do dreams happen? That's why I said, I know God is talking to us through our dreams, but for what reasons, we have to figure that out.
But I think what you said is important. I mean, you had been asking God, how do I know this is you? How do I know this is where you want me to go? And God's like, well, I'll show you. Look, I'm in control. This is what's going on. So that's, he reveals himself that way sometimes through dreams when you ask those questions. So apparently Greg never asked those questions.
No, I just Googled them.
Apparently my wife does ask those questions, because twice in the last 10 years she's woke up and started beating the living daylights out of me.
Wow.
Well,
I understand that. I mean,
all right, well, not really beating the living daylights out of me, but I've been hit twice from her waking up.
And she's just blaming the dream. See, it's all.
Yep.
That's what I say.
I don't know if I would ever reveal if I had a sexual dream to somebody, and I think that probably most of us do. I don't know where they come from. I don't know,
right.
But I know that we're flawed human beings, and those things happen, and every once in a while I do, and I did actually share it with my wife one time, which I probably won't do again, because it went down the road of, well, am I having these dreams because we're not having enough sex, or
Right.
or having too much sex? Most likely the first one, but I probably won't bring that up again. But it's weird how that's one of our dreams, and And I don't know where those come from, but there must be some repressed something somewhere.
And sometimes those sexual dreams have nothing to do with sex. They're
True.
other stuff going on. So
Yeah.
dreams are funny things, man.
Mhm.
They're really funny things. And sometimes you wake up thinking you have a straightforward answer, and that's not at all what that dream was trying to say, or what's going on in your life. So I agree with you, Dave. That's probably what would prevent you from saying it. That's probably the one thing. I think you're right that kind of keep that one to myself. If I'm going to keep any kind of dream to myself, it'd be that kind of a dream.
Yeah. Well, and Jamie brought up a good point. There's that kind of dream doesn't always necessarily mean anything about sex. A lot of times it just feels like a lack of affection in your life you're feeling, and you're craving it, you're starving for it. It could mean a lot of different things, and
yeah,
one that is brought forth.
Yeah.
So, question number 5. Greg, you really
Mhm.
try to mess with people in the private chat here. So,
Oh,
you can read that on the comment. Read that out loud.
nope. I said I wasn't going to explain a dream.
it won't let me click on that to throw it up on the screen. Anyway,
That's all right.
question number 5. After the Wired Word team member, Dr. Jim Berger, taught a class on dreams of the nativity, a 90-year-old man in attendance described in detail an unforgettable dream he had when he was 16. Do you recall any dreams that were so real, so vivid that you can't forget them? What did you feel upon waking from them, and how did you interpret them?
I'll explain it. I'll give you this one because it was something that helped direct me in the direction that God wanted me to go. Back when I was a reserve firefighter in the city of Wyoming, I had a dream that I was in a structure fire and I was trapped and flames were all around me, and I heard a very clear voice tell me, "Now I've got you." And I woke up. And I seriously took that as Satan telling me, "Now I got you." This was at a point in my life where I was considering going to seminary and I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. I had some conversations with some of the admins at seminary about it, but I hadn't dropped the hammer yet on it. And I took that as a call, telling me, you know what, there's a bigger battle out there in the world than just fighting fires.
Mm-hmm.
And it really motivated me to go into seminary, because it was like, well, you know what, I'm not going to let the fire get me. And I'm not going to let the fire get anybody else either, as long as I'm alive on this planet. And I'm going to spread the good news of the gospel. So that's one. I don't tell a lot of that. I mean, it's made some good sermon illustration from time to time, but that one that is, man, that's probably 8 years now, still very vivid. And, ever since I made that jump and took the call and graduated, I haven't ever had a dream like that. Like I said, I've had just boring dreams, but that was one where I woke up, sat straight up in bed, and my wife's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "We got to talk, but we'll do it in the morning because I'm tired," and I told her about it. And, we talked about God using dreams in our lives to tell us something. I honestly believe that was something evil in using my brain to tell me something, or trying to tell me something, trying to stop me. And I wasn't going to let it, and I won't let it now. So, that one's one that I hang on to. That's a big one in my life.
I've had several. I've shared a couple of them with you guys. I didn't go into detail with those ones, but it's just been, like I said, I've had several in my life where things have happened. One was shortly after my wife and I's son, Ryan, passed away. I had a dream because Ryan was born with multiple disabilities. He couldn't walk or talk or do any of that kind of stuff. And I had a dream where he was sitting at the kitchen table, and I walked in and he was just sitting there, and I'm like, and he just looked at me and said, "I love you, Daddy." And I'm like, "Wait, what did you say? You talked?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course I can talk now." And this was, like I said, this was after he passed away. And and then I'm like, oh my gosh, could you say that to your mom? Your mom's, that's one of the things she's always said she wanted to hear. She's always wanted to hear you say, I love you. And so he's like, yeah. And so he went and I'm actually, all right. Thank you, sir. Sorry. I walked over to pick him up to carry him in the other room. And he's like, but Daddy, I can walk now. I'm like, you can? And he's like, yeah, I can walk now. So I sat him down and then we walked out into the living room together. And I'm like, okay, tell your mom what she, tell her what you want to tell her. And he looked at me again and said, I love you, Daddy. And I'm like, no, not me. You've already told me, tell her mom. And like I said, these are just dreams that just like, I can't get rid of. I mean, they're ones that I have carried with me he passed away in July in 2001. So 19 years I've been still carrying this dream, and it just plays out in my mind all the time, of him telling me that he's walking and talking, letting me know that he is with God and he's now able to walk. He's got a new body, he can talk. The whole world is a much different experience for him now.
Right.
So
what a great dream. What a great thing. Even if it wasn't a tangible memory that really happened, but what an amazing gift of God it is to have that wired into your system. God, man, I got goosebumps. I mean, it's just amazing that, God's like, yeah, you've struggled with this, and so has he. Here, let me give you something to hang on to the rest of your life. Yep. And you can hear in his voice, it's his voice because it's God, God, it's amazing. And, our God is so great to do that for people who suffer and people who have experienced loss. To give you this dream, give you this vision, and I think, dreams and visions to me are different. And I think, your vision of your son talking to you and walking and things like that, it's just an amazing gift of the Holy Spirit, gift of God to get you through life. I mean, man, it's amazing. I'm glad you shared it.
I didn't get a blessing from my dad if it wasn't for a dream.
What's that?
My dad told me he was proud of me after he died.
Oh, really?
In a dream.
And so fantastic.
That was great.
I only have dreams about demons and stuff, so I remember it's like someone demon possessed. That's a very vivid dream, but it was one of the most helpful dreams I've ever had. So I don't know if it was from God or what, but it was a very vivid dream, and learned a lot from that dream. And then, it was when I was like 20, so it was like 26 years ago, but man, it's still to this day, I remember it absolutely in detail, word for word, thought for thought, everything. And so exceptionally vivid dream. Yeah. But I learned a lot from it, and I interpreted it in a positive way, that I wasn't ready to do what I was claiming I was ready to do. And then I had to dig deeper into faith, dig deeper into Christ, dig deeper into the Word. And then a couple of years later, I had a very similar dream, which I don't remember so much, but I had a very similar dream where I was able to overcome what I couldn't overcome in the first dream. And it was just confirmation that I was on the right path and that the Lord was really using me for his purposes. And, and after that, I know I don't have any dreams anymore where I'm fearful of what the devil can do to me. I have no fear at all. I used to be paralyzed with fear because I would lay there and have these dreams, and it's just like, maybe this, even to the point where I believe that there was something demonic going on in the room while I was sleeping. Something was there affecting me. And now I just wake up, say, in the name of Jesus, be gone from this place, man. Go right back to sleep. No problem. So I couldn't do that at first. I was really paralyzed with fear for the first, for 2 or 3 years there. But it's better now.
That's good.
That's awesome. We got a few minutes left. I want to jump down because there was part of this reading and stuff that further down that I kind of really wanted to hit on, especially with you guys being pastors. And it's down in the chunk where it's talking about the Song of Solomon, chapter 3, verses 1 through 3, where it says, "Upon my bed at night, I sought him who my soul loves. I sought him, but found him not. I called him, but he gave no answer. I will rise now and go about the city in the streets and in the squares. I will seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but found him not. The sentinels found me as they went about the city. Have you seen him whom my soul loves?" So in relation to that verse and stuff, the question that they ask about that is, do you long to be in God's presence with the same passion that you might have for the presence of a human whom you love? Is that possible or desirable? How is your love for God similar to and different from your love for humans or a particular human that you love? At least one time every one of these shows, I have to go deep with you guys. So here we go.
That's a great question because, we're called to love with the same love of Jesus Christ, right? And so does that mean that we love other humans the same way we love Jesus Christ? And are we allowed to love humans the same level as Jesus Christ? It's almost pushing the whole "I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me" question. Am I thankful for people in my life just as much as I'm thankful for God? Yeah, definitely. But this is a weird question because it doesn't, unless it led up to having something about dreams. It's one of those things. It's like, Billy Graham was asked once if he's afraid of dying. He's like, no, I know where I'm going. He was so point blank to it. Now, did Billy Graham just blow off everybody he loved on earth? No, not really, because he knew he was going to be called to heaven. Now, are we allowed to love less? I think Jesus said, yeah, you can't be my disciple unless you love less or others than me, or I just stumbled over my words there, but
you don't hate your mother and father, your brother.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it wasn't about hate. It was just liking them less, So if I told my wife I love you less than God, I would probably get punched in the shoulder, but I think she would get what I mean at the same time. So I don't think she's in the house, so we won't test that right now.
But on the same token, I believe that if you don't love your wife less than you love God, then you can't love her properly either.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? God has to be at the forefront of all you are and all you do. And you spend time with him, and you become intimate with him through prayer, through studying the word, through fellowship, all those things. But yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure. The second part, is that possible or desirable? I don't know. It's hard for us as human beings to put God into a context outside of our human experiences, because that's how we relate to God, is through our human experiences. I remember a long time ago, someone said, the way that God talks to you is the way that your father talked to you when you were growing up. So if your father was abusive, God tends to be harsh to you.
Mm-hmm.
If your father was a hippie, God tends to be a hippie, kind of a thing. So I think that's a lot of true. We relate to God through the relationships that we have, and the love that we exhibit in those relationships helps us to love God deeper, I think. But at the same time, I think we need to make sure that we are giving a lot of precedent to our relationship with God, and and not forgetting about cultivating that relationship as we spend time with our families and our loved ones.
Yeah. When I was going through the ministry process of becoming a pastor, and Amy was finding a little bit more of her groove in the Christian faith as well. She actually came to me one day and she's like, she goes, I feel bad. And I said, why is that? She goes, I kind of feel guilty. And I'm like, for what? I was wondering, I didn't know what she was talking about. And she goes, I think I actually love God more than I do you. And I feel bad. I feel like I'm cheating on you. And actually I was like, are you kidding me? That's awesome. So I showed a great excitement about it and rejoicement of it because of the fact that, because as it does tell us in the Bible, we cannot love others unless we, truly love God first. So, yeah. So, I mean, it kind of helped me. I was excited because when she told me that I looked at it as she loves God more than me, therefore she can now properly love me.
Right.
In the manner that we're meant to love each other.
There's no jealousy there. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I had a friend that I worked with, and I used to work at Herman Miller in Spring Lake for 13 years. And one time I was talking about God, and I was talking about devotion to God and loving God. And he says, "Do you love God more than your kids?" I said, "Yeah, I mean, that's the point, is trying to," and he said, "I don't get that." He got pretty belligerent and angry with me. He's like, "How can you put anything above your kids? That's ridiculous." I was like, but here's the thing is I think a lot of marriages fail because their spouses put their kids above their marriage. And I don't think that's right either. I think there's a hierarchy for how we treat and love one another. God is first, your spouse is second, your kids are third in that order. And when things are in order, you can then love everyone like it's supposed to be done. So,
yeah.
When I think of that order, I think of the greatest chapter in probably all the Bible when it comes to anxiety and worry, and that's Matthew 6:24-34, right? And Jesus himself says at the end, "Seek me first and my righteousness, and all these things will be added onto you."
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Right.
That's good.
To add on that too, talking about how we should love people, John 17 is the high priestly prayer of Jesus is just so. There's no words for him to pray for those who God gave him, meaning the 12, and then he expands on that, and then he prays for each and every one of us, those who believe because of the 12. And it's like, and I don't give them back to you. They're yours anyways. And it's just. If we can love people like Jesus showed love for us in John 17, we wouldn't have half the problems in this world. And more people need to dive into that. I think we've just proved a point. I mean, if we need problems solved in this world with other human beings, let's go to the Bible.
Right.
Yes.
Rob, you look pretty chill back there. Are you all right? Okay.
Enjoying the conversation.
Good question.
I like that it's coming out of Song of Solomon, of course, because that book is chock full of good sex talk and stuff like that. So it's great.
Here comes my dreams again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Don't read Song of Solomon before you go to bed. You're gonna have a pretty sexy
I had a seminary professor that did Bible survey that got like red in the face whenever we had to get up to Song of Solomon. I mean, like people asked, "Oh, have you done Song of Solomon yet?"
Yeah.
No, and they're like, "You got to watch it." And one day in class, I asked him in front of everybody because I knew he was uncomfortable. I said, "My anniversary is coming up. Should I just read this to my wife? What do you think?" And he got so upset with me that I even brought it up. And he was like, "Don't you have a real question?"
I think we should be teaching out of Song of Solomon. That's missing in the church. Just putting that out there. Talking about the positivities about sex and stuff. So that's
right. Yep.
Well, and that leads us to being pretty much out of time for today. So we have exhausted our hour and some very interesting topics again, as usual, which is awesome. I want to remind everybody that we do run these every week, every Friday at 1:00 live. So we do encourage and stuff to watch live and to participate, comment on things, ask questions or whatever, because we do enjoy answering those questions and having those discussions with those people. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank Pastor Greg and Pastor Eric and Pastor Jamie and Pastor Dave for joining us today. And if you are a pastor and happen to catch this and are interested in joining us, by all means, let me know. Contact us through the West Michigan Pastors Facebook page, and we will invite you in, and you can come in and have some discussion with us. We like all different points of view and whatnot because that aids in the discussion. So it's definitely enjoy having that. So, and I will do something different than what we normally do, and I will close us out in prayer, mainly because I like the prayer that they actually included in with the conversation that we had. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one. So I'll close us out in prayer, and we'll head off for the day, and hopefully everybody enjoys their weekend. So let us pray. O God of peace, knowing that you care for us, we cast all our anxiety upon you, as you have commanded us to do. Jesus, Prince of Peace, we are weary and loaded down with the heavy burdens. We come to you in response to your promise to the rest for the soul. Help us to be willing to learn gentleness and humility from you during this stressful time, and show us that by serving together with you, we will find that promised rest. And may your peace rule in our hearts. Spirit of God, produce your fruit of peace in us, that we may live in peace with one another and with God. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys very much for joining us today, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.